So, good morning. Let's start again, round two. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in our beautiful Facebook world. I'm Sophia, of course, from Sacred You, and today I have the beautiful and the very interesting chat, the wonderful and the very interesting chat, to have opportunity to have a chat with our beautiful Jan, who's joining us all the way from Connecticut. And Jan, welcome. We're going to have a really interesting conversation about the pets and the human bond in life, or how the leash goes both ways in life and healing. It's really, really interesting. I love this. Is something close to my heart. I love pets. I've grown up with lots of pets, and now I live with where I live, like I said, with 4 dogs and 5 dogs, one pup. But Jan, just let me introduce you for a moment, because you've got a really interesting background for all our listeners, so they can get to know Jan. So Jan, you're a certified yoga teacher and a reflexologist, and you've had an extensive background in science and health. You've got a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in immunology of infectious diseases. So, and Jan, you've worked in clinical infectious diseases and cancer researchers and everything else. And it was whilst you were doing that that you came across essential oils to help dogs, to help your dog. Definitely want to know about that. And you've had the unique ability to merge the West and the East to empower people and pets in a journey to wellness. I love it. And your practice combines Reiki, gentle massage, essential oils, and more. And we will be putting all your links, and for everyone who is watching, we will be putting all of Jan's links on Facebook and LinkedIn and everything else in the comments as soon as we finish our conversation. And there's so much more to get to know about you, Jan. So let's start our wonderful conversation, because one of the best things I really like about this is getting to know you, to getting to know your journey and your story. And I'd love to know, a little bit about Casey and how you were able to help her. And now you're using, essential oils with pets for everything.
Yes. So I always loved animals, and my mother would have said that I would have gone up to every animal, wouldn't have mattered, and I was fearless. So, I think sometimes that what is meant to be is meant to be, as I wanted to be a veterinarian when I was a kid and didn't do that, went to science. And when I was in my scientific journey in my career, I had an older dog who was 14, and she developed something that is equivalent to dementia in people. In dogs or
Yes.
in pets, it manifests as insomnia, disorientation, fear where they don't know where they are. And her symptom is she had insomnia. She would wander all night. She would cry because she was disoriented and afraid. And because she wasn't sleeping, I wasn't sleeping. And I came from a very Western world. I worked in hospitals and in medical schools, and I had a yoga student who was into essential oils. And she said to me, I'm going to give you an essential oil, a few essential oils. You're going to go home. You're going to apply them. You're going to diffuse them. And Casey's going to sleep. And I looked at her like she had 10 heads. I was like, you've really got to be kidding me. It was like, I thought that people who used oils were hippies and, lived in Woodstock, New York, and wore beads. I really had no clue. And I resisted quite a bit, actually. I was like, just come on, it's okay. I'm really fine. I really don't need anything. And finally, she said, you look like exhausted. I'm going to give it to you. And I went home, and I remember the first night I set up my diffuser and applied oils, and she slept. And I remember thinking to myself, it's just an accident. And then after about the third or fourth day in a row of her sleeping through the night, I thought to myself, oh, this is really interesting. Because then I knew that there was much more than a coincidence, that something was happening. And it kind of opened the door for me to explore further. And so I began to delve into the world of essential oils. Being the scientific background that I had and the scientists, I decided that I was going to read as many studies as I could in scientific journals about oils. And I just started to learn and learn and learn. And eventually what happened was people started to come to me with all their animal related questions. Like I became known as this oil animal person. And that led to me co-authoring 3 books on essential oils for pets, called Spoil Your Pet. I had met my co-authors, a wonderful veterinarian along the way. And so when we wrote the book together, we decided that we were going to combine the very medical and her expertise in veterinary medicine with the more holistic modality of pets and of essential oils, and how you could use that in conjunction with traditional veterinary medicine.
Thank you. And it's really interesting because I'm sitting here going, like we do know that essential oils, that people use essential oils. They're now becoming pretty well mainstream to use in our lives. There's so much out there. But it's not so common to using essential oils for pets. It does happen, not so common. So tell us a little bit more. You're saying Casey lived to the age of 19, which is a really good age for dogs. It's wonderful. And how do you think the oils has helped her in her later years? And like, any oils in particular do you recommend? What
Yes,
did you use?
thank you. So I feel that they really helped her. I mean, I think it is known that essential oils have the ability to affect our emotions, and they connect into the memory centers in the brain where we of memory and our history. And so therefore, I think diffusing and applying essential oils in her case helped alleviate a lot of the fear and tended to calm her down a lot, which allowed her to rest. I think also that familiar smells are always very useful. So this whole idea for me of, using an essential oil that I would wear during the day or at night, and then leaving her with that during the day, alleviated some of her anxiety about being by herself, for example, because it smelled like I was home. And so I loved that. And then once I got into using essential oils, I used them topically. And some of that was for some of her health symptoms. So, for example, discomfort in her joints and soreness or swelling that happened because she was old and had a hard time moving. Or it could have been in her case, she had some digestive issues. So to ease and comfort her digestive system and her stomach to make her feel more comfortable. I think I used oils probably every day after that in one way, shape, or form. And basically, I feel that for the majority of that 5 years I used them, it really did assist her. I think at the end, she was just old and it was her time. She used to come to all my oil meetings with me and be my model. Like, all my friends knew her, everybody got to know her. She was a love. And it just, I felt, made her life so much more easeful. And as I began to work with other people, the circumstances I saw and experienced were just remarkable. I had one client, and one of my neighbors actually, who became a client, I remember, had a poodle, a standard poodle, that had something that was like MS. And the dog was basically immobile, and she kept on applying essential oils. And she was so diligent. And for months and months, it basically really didn't do a lot. She would sit there and say to me, oh, she sat up a little bit more or whatever. And then one day she was cooking, and all of a sudden she looked down and the dog was like sitting right next to her. And it was just remarkable. And could it be something else? Yeah, but she really wasn't doing much else. So probably the combination of the massage, because that element of touch is really powerful, as we know, and the combination with essential oils was just remarkable.
Yes. Yeah, and I can believe that because I have heard about it, and just over time, then the effect of it would have just been able to emerge or grow,
Mhm.
until one day that she was able to sit up and things like that, which is really, really wonderful to hear. And I'd like to know more. You're talking about the connection or the bond that we have with our pets. And I know for, so many people in the world that, their pets are their family, and the bonds are really, really deep. But yet, we still don't really go into healing animals in a natural way, too much. A lot of the time, even more so, is you've got to go to the vet. So tell us more about that, and tell us more about the relationship that we can develop with animals, through healing naturally.
So I have always felt that, like everything, certain people, I always had a very strong connection to animals. And I think we all have that if we cultivate it. And I remember when I first got Casey, and then after she had passed away, and I got my new dog, who I absolutely love, just different, so he's a different dog. So just in a way differently, but the same. I realized the gift she gave me. And the fact was that she was the perfect dog for me at that time in my life. And I think that bond and the realization that firmly believe that we're given the pets we need at the time. She was the pet. She taught me so much. She helped me so much. And that bond and that mutual connection, as much as I healed her and took care of her, she took care of me. There was such a reciprocal relationship for that. And when I got my dog now, who's so opposite in personality, it's like night and day. Casey was so laid back. A bomb could have gone off and she wouldn't have cared. My pup now, a pin drops and he flies across the room. And I learned very early on that if I was anxious, he was 100 times more anxious, because he would pick up on my energy, which is part of that whole healing process. Is they can read us, they pick up on our emotions. And all of a sudden I realized that I had to work on myself if I wanted to heal him, that I had to address my own anxiety if I really wanted to help him to feel less anxious. And I was on the phone with a client not too long ago who has two cats that she's trying to introduce to each other. And she's been very anxious, and her cat that she has had for many years is very anxious. And I said to her, I think you need to calm down, because the cat is picking up on your anxiety, on your stress level. And so I think there is always this mutual pathway. And that's how I came up with the leash goes both ways, because I feel that as much as they benefit us in, in our emotional well-being, support, helping to alleviate things like loneliness, lowering stress hormones. So on a physiological level, they're helping us. On an emotional and a spiritual level, they're helping us. That we also greatly influence them.
Yes.
And sometimes that influence is positive and sometimes negative, because as complex human beings, we come with all our stuff, everything comes, and our pets tend to get the brunt of it, because I was at the vet's office yesterday, and the technician, who also does Reiki, I go to a holistic vet, and my vet and I were all talking about, at one point or another, having conversations with our pets, like telling them our problems, really spilling our souls and our hearts to them. And I think that happens. And if you're open to it, I think they actually, I really do believe they communicate back.
Oh,
You just have
totally.
to know how to look for the signs.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
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 And that has guided me in a way to start to bring more awareness to people about what they do and how that affects their pets, the circumstances in their life, what that's doing. I had a client not too long ago, had a very, very, very very extreme, very sad loss, and trying to relay to her, because her dog was ill, the dog sort of took a very rapid decline. And I said to her, as she was trying to make the dog better, I said, and I'm not telling you need to process this grief any faster. I'm just telling you that you have to realize what that, the environment the dog is he loves you and you're so sad. So that can be positive and negative, or just that awareness that comes.
Absolutely, and I really, really, truly believe and agree with you. That our pets are there so much to teach us. To teach us to work on our stuff, because they get impacted by it totally. I agree with it. I've had many experiences of that, and the more we get anxious about them, or the more we get frustrated if they keep on barking or if they're misbehaving, the more they're going to, because they're feeding or they're picking up on our experiences, on our emotions. So tell us a little bit, Jan, do you have any oils in particular that you can recommend, or oils that we can't use for pets? Because I know that there are some oils that are no good for pets. And or what oils can you recommend if you've got a dog that that is very anxious, that can't settle?
Yeah, I can say that with essential oils, one is quality makes a huge difference. So the quality of an essential oil is probably in some ways, I might say, even more important for them than it is for us, because their systems are so sensitive to things like pesticides and contaminants and and artificial aromas. The health issues that comes with that is in some cases extreme. So that care and quality and testing of an essential oil is really important when you're working with animals. Partly probably because their sense of smell is so much greater than ours. And so you have to remember that when you're using the essential oil, that if it's strong to you, it's going to be obviously be even stronger to them. There are not many oils I avoid. It's much more about quality, purity testing, and then concentration, meaning how much you use. So you always want to err on the side of being very small amounts and then diluting a lot, because there's really no need to overdo. I do tend to avoid a lot of what we would call the hotter oils. Very rarely, if ever, do I use them. And what I mean by hotter oils, it's things that are spicy, that might cause a warming sensation to the skin if applied topically. My co-author, the wonderful Dr. Mia Frezzo, and I always talk about the fact that we try to keep the experience very positive. So I don't want an animal to have a reaction or be uncomfortable when I use an essential oil, because they're just going to avoid it. And then it becomes a game. It's like, can I get the oil on them? And are they going to run away? And then, you just end up chasing them around the house trying to get an oil on them. So there aren't that many oils we avoid, just a lot of the hotter, spicier oils. And I would say things like cinnamon and clove and thyme and oregano, anything that's really powerful, very strong. And part of the reason also is because there are so many oils out there that are a lot more gentle, that overlap in effects, that there's really no reason to grab an oil that's so intense, especially in the beginning of any issue. As far as my favorite oils, I have my favorite oils. My favorite oil, I always say, if I'm stuck on a desert island, I'm bringing frankincense with me. It's safe. It's used. You can use it on an animal of any age, from birth basically to transitioning over at the end. It has a myriad of uses. And I love the fact, like I said, that you can use both. So I can use the same oil as my pet's using. And I think that since there is that smell bond, but also I love the fact that I don't have to duplicate and I don't have to have separate oils for my pets than I have for myself. I can just use the same oils. I think lavender is always a good staple to have around also because it has a lot of vast issues from calming to skin issues to being relaxing. And when I say relaxing, it's relaxing emotionally, but it's also relaxing to tissue. So it can help in that aspect. I don't really, when I say you avoid hotter or spicier oils, I don't tend to avoid them when I diffuse them in the air. I just avoid them if I'm going to apply them topically. So I might diffuse a combination that contains those oils, but I won't put them on. What else can I tell you a little bit about just using? I always am around when I diffuse, especially if I'm diffusing something new for the first time. I don't turn on my diffuser and essential oil diffuser and leave the house and leave the pets in there. I always allow them what I call an escape route. So I'm never in a closed room. If they want to leave, they can leave. If they don't like it, my pets have always hung with me and they will sit with me when I work. And if I choose a combination to diffuse and I look down and everybody is gone, I know they didn't like it. It's always like, okay, I guess that wasn't one of their favorites. I'm trying to think of any other oils that I would greatly recommend. I mean, there are a few others. Geraniums are really nice oil and good for a lot of different issues. An oil called Copaiba or Copal, which has a lot of very relaxing benefits to different systems of the body, from the cardiovascular system to the respiratory system and digestive system, the nervous system. So probably a staple that I use quite often. And then I think you have to just look at what's going on. And that's part of what any of these, I think, alternative or therapies are offering, these more holistic modalities, because we're looking at things that aren't obvious sometimes. So you have to look a little deeper and say, okay, well, how do I think my pet's really feeling? And I think like children, we all know what their normal behavior is. So if we really look hard and start to notice, we'll say, oh, they're acting really funny, or something must be going on because they're not acting like themselves. Maybe they're not as active. Maybe they're hiding. Maybe they can't settle down, and normally they do, and they're just pacing and walking around constantly. And I think if we look to those things, very few, I mean, I don't know that I've ever met an animal that is inherently violent. I mean, they might be afraid, but there is no bad dog to me. There are, and anything that happens with my dog is my inability to understand what he's trying to tell me.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, buddy, you're talking to me, but I'm not quite sure what you're saying. And I think he says the same. I think he says the same thing to me, like, Mom, you're not being clear on your directions. Like, if you tell me what to do, I'll do it.
Yes, yeah. No, I totally agree that animals are trying to communicate with us, and we're the ones that can't pick up on what they're saying. And the other way around, a lot of times we're not clear enough and things. So I totally agree with that. And it's so good to know that, you can use oils to help them in all sorts of different circumstances, to help them with their health, to help them with their, to calm them down if they're anxious or anything like that. And all this information can be found in your book. You talk about being, using oils for your pets in your book. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. The book is designed, was actually designed very, very, I think, easily to navigate. So we cover 75, I might say, health-related concerns or lifestyle issues. So that might be physical issues like acid reflux or some sort of infection or organ support, to much more lifestyle issues like secondhand cigarette smoke and toxins in the home. And so then we cover a lot of emotional things: aggression, grief, anxiety, separation anxiety, sound sensitivity. And in each section, we describe what that is. And then there's an essential oil, like, what do I do section. So it's literally, if you have a dog, you do this. If you have a cat, you do this. And if it happens to be that those directions overlap, then there's a little icon that says for dogs and for cats. And in every section, we'll give the oil directions, how much oil, what oils we like, and then a few other tidbits. I love essential oils, but to me, there's no substitution for good nutrition, exercise, and some supplementation. I like supplements for pets. So don't tell me I always say that, oils are great, but if your dog is having a major health issue, you really do need to make sure that they have the nutritional elements to heal,
Yes.
just like
Yes.
us. So, but every section for all 75 was designed the same way, with a description and then the what do I do section. And
Yes.
in the beginning of the book, we have just basic do's, don'ts, no-nos, special circumstances, like what if you're dealing with an animal that's pregnant, that has a seizure disorder or a clotting disorder, certain things to know. And at the end, we have a list of all the recipes that we refer to in the book, and also a list of all the oils we've recommended in the book. And we kept it, I think, pretty conservatively. Like, we didn't go crazy with the oils. We tend to repeat. I think frankincense and copaiba are the most mentioned oils in our entire book. I don't know how many citations, but you'll see an index when that one comes up. So it's like really long. And I also have a free sort of pamphlet ebook, which goes through a little bit of the basics, which if I didn't give you the link to, I can give you the link to, and people can just get on and download that. That's really easy to get. And that just goes through the basic, like, do's, don'ts, kind of the what not to do. And I think a list of like 5 oils, which we tend to like. And so I'd be happy to provide that to anybody who's listening.
Yeah, absolutely, and we will include those links. And thank you for sharing that, and for everyone who is listening, whether you're watching the live or the replay. So I'm here to talking with the beautiful Jan, who has a really interesting passion, and it's like helping all our pets and connecting with our pets in life and in healing by using oils. So thank you, Jan. I'm certainly going to look into your book as well, because, like I said, I live in a place that's got 5 dogs now, and they all communicate in such a different way, and they're all different ages, and it's so incredible to see all their different personalities. And to be able to help them is a magical thing. So I just want to honour you for following your guidance, following your passion, to using your science background, your medical background, and now bringing that into helping our pets who are there. They're there with us. They provide so much love and loyalty, and it's just a wonder when we can help them, especially in their later years or if they're not well. So thank you
Oh,
ever so much
you're
for
welcome.
for
It is a love, and anybody I can help is always, if I can guide anybody, I'm always open to doing that, because to me, I understand that bond that people have with their animals.
yeah. Yeah, like I said, for some people, their pets, their animals are their family, and they do anything that they can with them. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining us. We will put all your links in, and I also will put your links into your podcast. I'm very interested about that as well. Your podcast, your pet life and longevity, which is a wonderful thing, wonderful topic. Looking forward to hearing more. So thank you, and I hope you have a beautiful day.
Yes, you also. Thank you, Sophia.